Professor Clix adjusted his 3 eyes nervously as he gazed across the lecture hall at his xenobiology students. The Galactic Academy's most prestigious class had fallen dead silent, and that was never a good sign. Especially not when the topic was primitive hunting strategies of backwater worlds. So, Clix cleared his throat, his voice echoing through the chamber. As I was saying, most civilized species evolved from prey animals. We learned cooperation, agriculture, and peaceful coexistence because... He paused, noticing the human exchange student in the third row raising her hand. Oh no. Not again. Yes, Emma Martinez? Clix sighed, already knowing this was going to derail his carefully planned lecture for the 5th time this semester. Emma stood up, her bipedal frame towering over most of the seated aliens. Professor, I think there might be a small error in your data about Earth. The classroom erupted in chittering laughter from the insectoid Rexy students, while the gelatinous Blorians wobbled in amusement. A small error? From a primitive deathworlder? How delightfully naive. Oh really? Clix's mandibles clicked with barely concealed irritation. And what might that be, Miss Martinez? Well, you said that on civilized worlds, apex predators always hunt alone because they're too dangerous to cooperate. Emma's voice carried that peculiar human confidence that made Clix's chitinous skin crawl. But on Earth, that's completely backwards. The laughter died instantly. Student Yeth, a crystalline being from the Andorian cluster, raised a translucent appendage. Impossible. Apex predators are violent, territorial, aggressive. They cannot work together. Basic evolutionary psychology. Emma's lips curved into what humans called a smile. Clix had learned to fear that expression. Tell that to wolves, she said simply. Wolves, squeaked Pip, a small mammalian creature from the outer rim. What are wolves? Emma looked around the room, and Clix could practically see the gears turning in her head. Wolves are pack hunters. 40 animals working together, coordinating attacks, sharing kills. They can take down prey 50 times their individual size. The room grew uncomfortably quiet. But surely, Clix interjected, desperately trying to regain control, these wolves must be small creatures? Scavengers perhaps? Oh no, Professor. Wolves are apex predators. 2 meters long, razor-sharp teeth, powerful enough to snap bones. Emma's voice took on an almost casual tone that made Clix's stomach acid churn. And they're not even close to the scariest pack hunters on Earth. Student Grix, a proud warrior from the militaristic Zendan Empire, scoffed. Ridiculous. My species conquered 12 star systems. We know warfare. No true predator shares territory. Emma's eyes gleamed. Ever heard of Orcas? What are Orcas? This time it was Professor Clix himself asking, though he immediately regretted it. Killer whales. Ocean predators. They're called killer whales because they hunt other whales. Creatures 100 times their size. Emma began pacing, and every student in the room unconsciously leaned back. But here's the fun part, they don't just hunt in packs. They have culture. Culture? Yetha's crystalline form dimmed. Predators do not have culture. Orcas do. Different pods have different languages, different hunting techniques passed down through generations. Some specialize in hunting sharks, others prefer seals. They teach their young complex strategies. Emma paused for effect. And when they decide something needs to die, 30 of them show up. The silence was deafening. Pip's voice came out as barely a whisper. Surely these Orcas are the most dangerous predators on your world? Emma actually laughed. Actually laughed. Not even close. You want to know about the real apex predators on Earth? Professor Clix realized he was gripping his lectern so hard his claws were leaving marks. I suppose we should hear this. Humans, Emma said simply. Grix snorted. Humans? You're small, weak, no natural weapons. How can you be apex predators? Emma's smile widened, showing those flat, white teeth that somehow looked more threatening than any fang. Because we're the only species that turned pack hunting into an art form. Wolves hunt in packs of 40? We hunt in packs of thousands. Orcas coordinate attacks? We coordinate entire planetary assaults. The room temperature seemed to drop several degrees. But the really scary part isn't our numbers, Emma continued, her voice dropping to almost a whisper. It's that we never stopped evolving our pack behavior. Every human technology, every advancement, every tool, it's all designed to make the pack more efficient. Student Zorb, who had been silent until now, managed to croak out, efficient at what? Emma looked directly at Professor Clix. At killing things that threaten the pack. The lecture hall was so quiet you could hear Pip's rapid breathing. So when you ask why no predator hunts alone on Earth, Emma concluded, sitting back down with casual grace, the answer is simple. The ones that tried to hunt alone went extinct. Only the pack hunters survived. Professor Clix stared at his lesson plan, then at Emma, then back at his lesson plan. Class was dismissed early that day, and somehow, Clix had the distinct feeling that Emma Martinez wasn't finished teaching them about Earth's predators. 3 days later, Professor Clix made what would go down as the worst decision of his academic career. He assigned Emma Martinez to give a presentation on advanced predatory behaviors of Earth species. The lecture hall was packed. Word had spread through the Galactic Academy faster than a plasma fire. Students from other departments, visiting professors, even some off-duty security personnel had crowded in to hear the human explain her homeworld's nightmare creatures. Emma stood at the holographic projector, looking remarkably calm for someone about to traumatize an entire auditorium of alien minds. "Thank you all for coming," she began, her voice carrying that same cheerful tone that had haunted Clix's dreams. "Today I want to talk about cooperation among Earth's predators. Specifically, why the most dangerous ones learn to share." She activated the projector, displaying an image that made several students gasp. "This is a hyena," Emma announced casually. "Scavengers, right?" "Wrong. They're active hunters with a bite force stronger than a lion's. And they hunt in clans of up to 80 individuals." Student Quill, a feathered being from the peaceful Avanti sector, raised a trembling wing. "Surely they only hunt small prey?" Emma's eyes sparkled with that terrifying human amusement. "They take down water buffalo. 2,000-pound animals. But here's where it gets interesting." The image shifted to show a group of hyenas surrounding a much larger predator. "They also steal kills from lions." "Impossible," growled Thex, a predatory species himself. "Lions are apex predators. Nothing challenges apex predators." "On most worlds, you'd be right," Emma nodded agreeably. "But Earth doesn't do things like most worlds. See, lions are bigger, stronger, better armed. But hyenas figured out something crucial." She paused, scanning the increasingly nervous audience. "Numbers trump everything." The next image showed what could only be described as organized chaos. Dozens of hyenas systematically harassing a pride of lions, forcing them to abandon their kill. "Holy void," whispered Professor Mech from the back row. "Oh, that's nothing," Emma laughed. "Want to see real cooperation? Let me tell you about African wild dogs." The hologram shifted again. This time it showed sleek, painted canines moving in perfect synchronization. Wild dogs have an 85% hunt success rate. For comparison, lions are at 25%. Tigers? 10%. You know why wild dogs are so successful? Emma looked around the room like she was sharing a delightful secret. Because they never give up, and they never hunt alone. Student Vex, whose species prided itself on tactical superiority, leaned forward. "What is their strategy?" "Persistence hunting. They pick a target and chase it for hours. Days if necessary. They take turns, running in relay formation, wearing down prey that's bigger, faster, and stronger than any individual dog." Emma's voice grew almost admiring. "And they share. The pack feeds the pups first, then the injured, then the elders. No one gets left behind." The room was dead silent except for the sound of rapid note-taking. "But let me tell you about the species that really perfected pack hunting," Emma continued, and somehow her smile became even more unsettling. "Ancient humans." Professor Clix felt his 3 hearts skip a beat. See, early humans weren't particularly impressive predators individually. We were slow, weak, had no claws or fangs. But we had one advantage that changed everything. Emma gestured to her own head. "We could think." "All sapient species can think," protested Grix. "Not like this," Emma shook her head. "Humans developed persistence hunting just like wild dogs, except we added tools. Spears, traps, coordinated fire drives. We would chase mammoths, creatures 10 times our size, 4 days across entire continents." The hologram now showed primitive humans working in terrifyingly organized groups, herding massive creatures toward waiting spears. And we never stopped innovating. Other species reached an evolutionary peak and stayed there. Humans kept evolving our hunting techniques. Emma's voice carried a note of pride that made Clix's skin crawl. "We went from spears to arrows to guns to orbital bombardment." "Orbital bombardment," squeaked Pip. "Well, yes. When we decided something needed to be extinct, we made sure it stayed extinct." Emma shrugged as if discussing the weather. "Mammoths, saber-toothed cats, cave bears. We hunted the hunters until they were gone." The silence stretched uncomfortably long. Student Yetha's crystalline form flickered nervously. "But surely modern humans have moved beyond such primitive behaviors?" Emma's expression grew thoughtful. "You'd think so, wouldn't you? But here's the thing about human pack behavior. She turned off the projector and faced the audience directly. We never really stopped hunting. We just changed our prey. What do you mean? Professor Clicks asked, though he wasn't sure he wanted to know. Poverty. Disease. Ignorance. Distance. Emma counted on her fingers. We declared war on everything that threatened our pack, and we approached each problem the same way our ancestors approached mammoth hunting. Systematic, relentless, cooperative effort until the target is eliminated. The room remained frozen. We built cities like termite colonies, communication networks like ant trails, and transportation systems like migration routes. Every human innovation is just pack hunting applied to abstract concepts. Emma's voice carried that casual confidence that had terrified them all. We turned cooperation into such an art form that we accidentally conquered our entire planet. Thex managed to find his voice. And now you're here. In space. Emma nodded cheerfully. Now we're here. And you know what the really funny part is? Nobody dared ask. We're still pack hunters. Every human ship, every colony, every diplomatic mission. Emma's smile was radiant and absolutely terrifying. We're still hunting. We've just expanded our definition of the pack. She gestured around the lecture hall. Welcome to the pack. Professor Clicks realized that the human exchange program might have been a mistake. A very, very large mistake. Class was dismissed permanently that day.